This is Joy Gritton. It's February 8th, 2013, and I'm here with RoseMary and Don Johnson, and we are talking about the Haldeman Community Center. And I'd like to ask you about, after the inside was cleaned of all of the asbestos and all of the sort of fallout from the fire, then how did you go about furnishing the interior, providing the things, the tables, the bleachers, everything that is in there now for use?
After the building was cleaned, the floors were cleaned out, the bleachers were still intact. They hadn't been moved in the last 20 years or ever how long the school has been in existence. So we got all the board members together, and some of the firemen helped us. We moved the bleachers out and cleaned out in behind them. And by doing so, we found all the report cards that the kids had dropped in there for 20 years to keep from taking them home to mama. So there was a lot of interesting projects in behind that bleachers. So we had, after we got them cleaned out, we had to take and repair each one. We got plywood, and redid all the bleachers before we scooped them back in. And then Don Hall from the jail here in Moorhead, they loaned us the prisoners that were trustworthy enough to be out there to help us paint them up and put them back in place. So it made an interesting project. We had the firemen help us, and the community pitched in with us, and then we had the inmates from the jail here helping us, and for a treat to them, when we get done working on the bleachers at the end of the day, we got a popcorn machine and a cotton candy, so we fill them up on that and let them play basketball, and that was a treat to them. Not having to go directly back to jail, they could stay there and enjoy it for a little while. So it worked out real nice. And while we were doing that, we also reworked the stage. We tore off all of the existing interior on the stages, and someone, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry I can't remember that, but they donated. Holiday Inn donated, must have been 500 feet of heavy vinyl wallpaper. So we used that to redo the stage. And the paneling that we took off of the stage, which was there beforehand, we used to repair the bleachers with. So it worked out real nice. We got pieces from here and there, and what we asked for donations for wood from people that left over from projects at home, and luckily we got wood to do the work with on the bleachers also. So it worked out real nice that way. That was interesting.
What year was that stage curtain purchased in? Do you remember?
I can't remember the exact date that I was told, but I know the PTA back then had started a campaign to purchase money to buy the curtains. Stage curtains, the ones that we have, I assume most of them are that way, are real heavy material. They're extra heavy, and during the fire, ours survived it well, but they had a lot of smoke damage to them. So we went outside of the building and we stretched a nylon rope for about 50 foot, and we hung them curtains over it, and we took pressure washers and we washed them down and they were heavy now, and we let them hang there for all that day and overnight and the next day, and then we got them dry to where we could take them back in and rehang them and let them finish drying on the inside, and it did a beautiful job on them. It cleaned it up. It was great shape. We enjoyed them.
So the curtains that are in there now were the ones that were in the school?
The original curtains that were bought with the PTA back in probably 39, 40, somewhere in that area. And reason we know that to be a fact, because Lloyd Dean's dad was, at that time, was in charge of that. and he's the one that got the curtains put in there.
But what these men that was cleaning these curtains didn't realize, they were so heavy. And they just said, when they were all wet, they were very, very heavy. Well, all of those curtains have metal plates all the way across the bottom. They forgot to take those metal plates out.
The metal plates is to hold them down so they don't blow around, and so we got them. Once we figured out what was happening, it made it easier.
So the bleachers are the original, the curtains are the original, and that space, when it was still operating as a school, was used for assemblies like things on the stage. Was it used as a kind of cafeteria as well as a gymnasium, or?
No, the cafeteria was later built onto that school, probably in the 50s. I would say that they built the cafeteria onto that school. Everybody had to brown bag it up until that time. Somewhere between, before the cafeteria was built, they had a couple rooms. I think they maybe adjacent to the library or something they had in there that they would use for a cafeteria. They weren't that many kids in that school at that time. Later on, they built the cafeteria and they added on to that school. They added on actually half again as big as it was, plus the cafeteria. So it was really nice once they got it all completed. But it started out like everything else. It was small and running full capacity at all times. But then that was just a handful of people at that time. When I went to school there, I think, best I can remember, they were like, I don't know, 30-some people that was in that school, in the class that I was in.
What years did you go there?
I was in there. I was born in '38, so I started out at the school that they had down the way a little farther. They had a high school there, and it was a brick school, and so we went to school there until the 6th grade, I think it was, the 6th grade, and then we moved up to the other school, which went through high school at that time. It went through the 12th
Middle
grade.
school and high school.
Yeah. So by the time I went from the 6th up to the 10th, then they'd already moved the last 2 years to Moorhead. So I only got to go to the 10th grade, and then they would bus me from there into Moorhead for the last 2 years of school.
And were you happy about that?
Yes, we were happy just to get away from that. I told everyone in there, I said, I went to school this place for 10 years, and every day I walked to school, I was hoping that place would burn down. And I said, now it finally burned down, and who's building it back? I said, you be careful what you wish for, because but it's been a joyful thing. We've enjoyed it, and I think if the people that's helping us don't enjoy it, they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't be there. It's not a mandatory thing, It's volunteer. So.
And how did you go about getting some of the other furnishings that you had, just basic things that you need, tables?
We had a dream. We're like Martin Luther King. We had a dream. And we thought, well, now, we don't have one table, and we don't have no money that we can afford to buy tables with. So me and the wife was talking one day, and she says, if we get the neighbors and the whole community interested in tables in here some way, maybe we can get some tables. So we thought maybe we'd get 4 or 5 tables or what have you, but we decided if they would donate a table, we would put their business on it or their name on it, individual, or in memory of, something like that. And so she put it out on the internet, and the first table we bought, some lady in Texas that she knew donated the money. She wrote and asked her, said, how much does it cost for one table and 6 chairs? And she emailed her back and told her, so she said, I want the first one. So we have one table up there. It's just got our friend in Texas.
Texas friends.
Everybody else that donated, some people donated 2, 3 tables. We had some businesses like Northcutt, they donated a couple tables. Lane donated tables. All of the individuals, the board members all donated tables. And then they brought it up to their relatives and friends, and they donated tables. So it just like it skyrocketed, you know. And at one time we decided we have enough. We got all the tables we need now, and then we stopped it at that. But there is still people out there that will buy tables if we need them.
And so you mentioned putting the word out. You have a website and you have a Facebook page.
Yes.
Is that helpful for fundraising? And
Yes, it is.
Very helpful, yes.
We do printing and put up flyers in various places surrounding Moorhead to advertise our stuff. Plus on the website, on Facebook, it's always there. And then on the website that we have, hhccommunitycenter.org, there's a schedule in there, everything that we have during the year that's going on.
and who maintains that?
My nephew in Canandaigua, New York.
Interesting. And so you have, this has been not just a local effort, but an effort that's, gone nationwide, Texas, New York.
We reach out, we're not just Round County.
And what's that, the website again is?
hhccommunitycenter.org.
That's great.
We have a lot of people in a lot of different places that's pitched in one way or another to see this thing through. And I'm surprised, amazed every day at the response we get from people that said, I like what you're doing, I'll help you if I can, and all of this. Well, the thought's there, but if the money, they don't have the money, but it's there. It's there. They're interested.
They're interested and they can come and help. And that's what we do. We get a lot of help from residents in there. We have one man that lives up on the hill in Haldeman Heights that he came down and he'd mow the yard. And one day he saw someone working on the steps, rebuilding the steps. Well, he just stopped and helped do that. So that's...
What things are left structurally to the building that would be sort of your next priorities, things that you really need?
It's all burnt out on the inside. And what was on the inside right next to the gym was the men and women's bathrooms. And so we want to build those back now. And then the next part it has to be the kitchen. And if we can get the kitchen large enough, then we can still do a coffee shop. And maybe even just a little small part of the gift shop. The purpose for the coffee shop is that we had a restaurant down on 60, and there must have been 5, 6, 7 guys from up on Haldeman Heights, over in Haldeman, period. They go there every morning and they talk and have coffee. And that's what we want to get going back here. That restaurant is now closed, so they don't have that gathering spot anymore. So we would like to build it up where they can come in there and have their morning coffee. And we would offer just regular coffee, your extra flavored coffees from Keurig. So.
At the time the school burned, so did the bathrooms. We had no bathrooms for the gym, so in order to rent the gyms, we had to rebuild some bathrooms. When we first opened, we would rent the porta potties, but they said a porta potty is not to be a permanent fixture. You can only use it so long, and then you got to have your bathroom. So without the funds, the know-how, the know-how was there. We had the guys that could do it, but we didn't have the funds. So we went and talked to the Board of Health, and they said in order to put bathrooms in there, you have to do it like it's a commercial building. You've got to have floor drains, you've got to have sprinklers, you've got to have all of the big features for them bathrooms. And we wanted to build one bathroom co-ed job. And they said, no, that's not possible. So we went to Jim Nichols and asked him to go with us to the Board of Health and help us out a little bit. So he went with us, and we talked to the inspector there. I think his name was Williams. And he said, no, it ain't going to happen. He said, we can't allow you to build bathrooms in that gym without doing all of this other stuff that goes with it. So we didn't stop at that. We decided, no, they got to be bathrooms. So we went higher up. We got a hold of the man in Frankfurt. And by doing so, we happened to pull the right strings, and he said, let me come out and look at it. So he did. He came out, he looked at it, and he said, you go ahead and put your bathrooms in, and when you get them in, call me and I'll inspect it. So we went ahead and hired a guy from LMSU here. He worked here at LMSU as a plumber. He come out and put the bathrooms in for us. We called Frankfurt, had the head inspector up there to come out and look at it. He put the seal on it. He said everything's fine. We now have bathrooms in the gym, but once we get the school built back, we want to put them back where they were at, because we're taking up stage room with the bathrooms that we really don't need to give up. So, but we now have the bathrooms in, and we can rent the building. So.
Well, Harry and his brother Woody, they went in and they framed in the bathroom for us. They donated all of the materials and that, and they framed it in. And then we bought the drywall, and Riley's drywall came out and drywalled it for us. So we only had to buy the different things,
Plumbing.
The plumbing fixtures and stuff like that. So we've got good friends that they're out there, they'll help you.
There's a lot of connections to the school. I happen to know that of the Rileys, their grandfather, depending on which generation, worked at the clay yard.
Yes.
We now have one of the kids, the Riley, wanting to be a board member, and he was at our last meeting, and he was going to be back at this past meeting a week ago, but he had to be in West Liberty, I believe. For some reason or another, he couldn't make it. So when he comes back, we have a vacancy on the board. So I think maybe we might put him on as a board member with us. He's an interesting person. He's there to help. He loves kids. He lives in the area. So.
And you have your 501c3. You have your nonprofit status.
Yes.
How long have you had that?
We've had that since 2009. That we've had that, and it gets well used. Every place, we have various places that we go that will accept it too, so that we don't have to pay the sales tax. And if you donate to us, then you get to use that as a write-off. We'll give you a receipt for what you've donated. And it doesn't matter if you donate money or something in kind. People that come out and work for us, that volunteer, we can write their names down, have them to write their names down, how many hours they worked. And that can be classified as matching funds for some grants. And I think, I'm not really sure, but right now each one of those hours, I believe, is worth $17.50. And so we've got them going back all the way back to 2008. And so that can be used in matching hours for grants and stuff. We've got a big, heavy-duty, large-size wheelchair, and I think it's only got 30-some hours on it. But it was donated to us, but they took a donation of, I think, about $5,000 is what we wrote it for. And so they were able to use that on their taxes.
You have a number of members on your board that are seniors, senior members of the community. You're doing an awful lot with children, with young people in the community. What kind of role do you think the center is playing in bringing those generations together?
I think it's playing a real good role in bringing those together, especially with the after-school program. We have anywhere from 4 to 5 senior men sitting by the door, and they're there, they're willing to help, they'll watch the kids, they'll do whatever they need to do. When the after-school program was over with in the fall, they thought, wow, now I can rest. And within a week, I miss those kids. They honestly miss the kids. If they see the kids out someplace, the kids will stop and talk to them. I met one little boy, his name was Josh, and his sister. And I said, well, how are you doing? And she looked at me and she said, Josh knew who I was, but she looked at me and she said, I know I should know you, but I don't remember. And I said, what about the after school? Yes! And then I got a real big hug. And the very same day I had met 2 more, Alex and his sister out. And if you're walking through Walmart's, through Kroger's, all of a sudden you'll see a finger pointing at you. I know who that is, Mom, you know them.
We had some of the parents of these kids that came to school there working in some of the businesses here in town. And we go into that business, the dad or the mom, ever which it might be at the time, will ask, the kids are worrying us to death. When are we going to start that school up again? So it's interesting to know that they think about it all the time. They had an enjoyable time there. It was a learning experience for them and for us too, because that was the first round for us. And I'm sure that the second one will be a little different, but it'll be just as enjoyable, if not more, than the first one. We also know what we need to do now to make it better. And the kids, to them, it probably couldn't be no better than what they had it, but it'll be different. It'll work out fine. So,
even the parents, when you see them out, they will make comments